Hello, everybody. Welcome to the second episode of The Growth Mindset. Guys, today we have a very unique guest with us today, and this is going to be a very interesting topic where we will understand more about what introverts are. Now, this is a pretty fascinating topic, according to me, and that's when I decided that I should reach out to somebody who's an introvert because I know for a fact that there are a lot of people out there who are introverts, and shedding more light on this topic would make a lot of us more aware of what exactly goes on inside the brain of an introvert. I would also like to just give you a heads up that I apologize for the background noise because the place where I conducted the podcast, there was a lot of background noise, so please forgive that. But the message in here is something that I believe everyone should listen to, because there's a lot of insights in this podcast that I've personally learned, and I'm sure there's a lot of in stores for you guys as well. So without further ado, guys, I would like to introduce Timsy, who works as the category manager for Flipkart. Thank you so much, Timsy, for coming here. It really means a lot. You taking your time out and joining us for the podcast. So, welcome.
Thank you.
Why don't you introduce yourself first for people who don't know?
I'm an engineer and MBA by education,
Mhm.
and I currently work at Flipkart as a category manager.
Mhm.
And I'm an introvert, which sort of brings me here.
Yeah. So, yeah, Timsy, why don't you go ahead and tell us a little bit about your background first? Your childhood experience, where were you born, and what brings you to Bangalore, all that good stuff.
Sure. I was born and brought up in Delhi. I went to this convent school in Delhi. Basically, in every parents teachers meetings, the teachers would always have this same complaint to my parents that she's so quiet. She knows her answers, yet she's not willing to, sort of raise her hands and answer those questions. But it was still okay because I was in the same school from nursery standard till for my entire school life. So I was with the same set of students and teachers, and I had a very good comfort level with them, and I was doing academically very well. So and in that particular school, being quiet was considered a sort of virtue. So it didn't pose much of a problem back then, and I was. Whenever other students would come to me, for any sort of help in their studies, I was more than happy to help. So it was like this small pond, I would say, where I belonged. And school life went pretty much fine for me. And I knew that, of course, every time it was pointed out that I was very quiet, but it didn't have any implications for me back then.
Okay. So, what brings you to Bangalore? Like you're a Delhi girl, and an introvert coming out of a comfort zone, coming to Bangalore. Like, what made you choose that?
Oh yeah, so there's a kind of a story behind it. So when I wrote my entrance examinations for engineering, I was pretty much sure that I would get through DC. But that didn't happen, and the next best available option to me was BITS Pilani Hyderabad campus.
Okay.
And I went to Hyderabad for my engineering, and once I was out of the house, so I had already, sort of moved out of my comfort zone. And post that, I went back to Delhi for 2 years, where I did Teach for India fellowship. But after that, my parents wanted me to, sort of get further education. So I decided to do MBA.
Okay.
And then again, I was in Lucknow for 2 years, and from campus, I got placed in Flipkart, and that's what brought me to Bangalore.
Okay. So, how did this, the term introvert come into your life? When did you realize, you're an introvert?
So actually, I would say it was when I read this book called Quiet by Susan Cain. It is a book about introversion, which explains introversion very clearly. And when I read that book, I was like, oh my god, everything makes sense now. So, but yeah, so when I joined Teach for India, Teach for India actually is a very extroverted organization, and they greet. There people greet each other by giving hugs, and it's a very cheerful organization, and somewhat I felt misplaced there, but yeah, they also had a lot of these. I mean, in the initial training sessions, they had conducted a lot of these personality tests to make people aware, because the entire concept was about non-judgment and the likes. So there I happened to take one of these Myers-Briggs tests, which divides these personality types into introversion and extroversion and other aspects. So that's where I came to know, and I got more interested in the topic. That then I started thinking, is it the way I behave? Is it because is it because of my temperament? Is it the way I was born? So I started researching more about it, and then I came across this book.
Interesting. And based on your understanding, right? What is introvert and what is extrovert? What is the difference?
So, introversion is basically about where you derive your energy from, whether it's from inside of you or from external surroundings. So, introverts feel more energized, when they are in low-key environments, in smaller groups, or just being by themselves. Whereas for extroverts, they derive their energy from other people. So they feel more energized when they have socialized with other people. And introversion is different from being shy. Shyness is a fear of social judgment. So it's like, what would people think about me? But for introverts, that is not the case. It is just that social interactions, take a toll on you, because you are spending a lot of your energy there. So which is why you choose which social interaction you want to be a part of.
So, I've heard about introverts and extroverts, right? So there are also people who are in the middle, which people call ambiverts also, right? So is that something like that?
Yeah, I think they're the luckiest people because they have the best of both worlds.
Okay.
So yeah, basically introversion and extroversion is sort of there's an entire spectrum, and you could lie anywhere on that spectrum. So people who lie in the middle are termed as ambiverts.
Okay. So there are also a lot of misconceived notion about introversion and depression are connected, right? So would you like to shed some light on that?
So yeah, this has happened with me a lot of times when I'm sitting by myself, minding my own business, and people come to me and ask, are you okay? Is everything all right? And I have never really understood, how does being quiet translate to not being okay? I mean, why don't people go up to loud people and ask them, hey, you're talking so much, is everything okay? So yeah, this is something, since introverts think a lot, they are always in this contemplative mood. So maybe to outsiders it appears that they are depressed, whereas actually they might just be in some deep thought.
Does science prove this, that there is no relation also between introverts and depression? Are there any facts like that?
So actually there have been evidences to prove that introverts might be more self-critical, and because of which they might have these moments of low self-esteem, which might at times translate to depression. But there is no that can happen with extroverts as well. So there is no perfect correlation between introversion and depression.
Okay. So when was the first time somebody labeled you? Like, do you remember that? And how was it feeling? Did it affect you personally?
So basically, yeah, all my life I've been hearing terms like quiet and you lead a secretive life and etc. etc. So, but yeah, maybe like I sort of got used to these terms after a while. But there was this once, uh, you know, when an aunt of mine said something which really hurt and which took a toll on my self-esteem, I would say. So basically, she had been looking for arranged marriage prospects for her son, and there was this one girl who didn't work out. So my mother was asking my aunt, what happened in that girl's case? Why did you go ahead? So my aunt says, as a matter of fact, that girl was not very jolly. And looking at her, it didn't feel like she could bring happiness to the house. She was very quiet, just like your Tinsy. And yeah, this happened long back, and I thought, oh my god, what good is my existence if I can't bring happiness to other people's lives?
So how did you come out of it when something like this happened?
It took me a lot of time, I would say, because it was only after I went through these stages of self-awareness when and then I got a lot of validation from my friends and the students for whom I had worked, their parents, who came and told me how much value I had added to their lives. And that's when I realized that there is no one way to bring happiness to other people's lives.
Absolutely, absolutely. And then do you think introvert, being an introvert is a flaw, is bad? Do you personally feel that?
Not now, but yeah, there have been, times when I have felt, why was I born this way? Or I wish I could do something about it. Or, I wish if life would have been easier if I were born an extrovert. But yeah, with a lot of self-awareness now, I know what are the advantages that come with this personality type, and so yeah, that helps.
Okay. Coming back to advantages, okay, I certainly have that I want to ask you, but before I do that, what are some of the challenges you face personally as an introvert? Be it you told about your personal life, right? Your aunt leaving you or telling me about this. What are some challenges that you face in let's say, professional life? You're working. How does that work in a professional environment, you being an introvert?
Yeah, so even in professional life, I would say, so I'm not very spontaneous or, very quick to respond. So basically, if I'm prepared about something, then I know my facts, everything is in place. But like, let's say somebody throws a question at me, which comes very suddenly. I just start searching my memory for the answers, and that's when people start thinking that I'm not confident or I don't know what I'm talking about, even though I might have done plenty of research on that subject. But yeah, I come across as not sure of what I'm saying, and so yeah, that does sort of affect meetings and presentations.
Okay, and then do you personally feel that being an introvert personally stop people from becoming truly successful?
It would depend on the kind of job or that you have, the career path that you have chosen. So, but the key is basically playing to the advantages of this personality type. But yeah, there would be some particular kind of career paths which would take a very heavy toll on introverts. So, I mean, it's not advisable for introverts to go there and suffer that day in and day out. So, for example, let's say if we talk about a sales role, where you have to be, or maybe somewhere in hospitality industry where you have to face customers day in and day out. I'm sure it would be very difficult for introverts to keep up with that kind of job.
Absolutely right. It also makes sense because of their. It's all about you understanding your strong points and leveraging on that.
Yeah.
You working in your, you facing challenges in your professional life in terms of, you working in Flipkart, and how do you overcome the challenges? Because even most people who are educated at times don't know the difference between, introverts, extrovert personalities. So how are you combating, that particular thing in your office?
Um. So I would say that the stakeholders who are very important to you, especially your manager, keeping them aligned and telling them, talking to them about your working style, making them aware helps a lot, because once they recognize that this is the best way in which you would be most productive, then they would let you function in the way that you want.
Okay.
So yeah, that helps. But yeah, that cannot be done with just about everybody that you work with. So I still do face a lot of challenges.
Okay. So you did mention, right, that being an introvert has its advantages. So what are the advantages?
So introverts would not want to, publish something, and by publish I mean, so there's a lot going on in our heads, and by publish I mean just taking it out. If they're not sure about something, so they are not very big risk takers. If they are not 100% sure about something, they will not actually go and comment on something. So, although this can be seen as a negative thing in some situations, but at times it helps, because when you're sure about your content, or when you're thorough with whatever you're saying, that gets more credibility. And that's what I have felt, especially even in my personal relationships, and I mean in both my personal and professional relationships, that it is easier for me to build that sort of credibility with people, because they know if I have something to share, it would be something tangible.
And you said, right, that a lot of things go into, in between introverts' minds, right? Do you have there any research been done that explains what exactly goes on in the minds of introverts?
Yeah, so actually there have been a lot of researches, but to explain in layman terms, I would want to speak about two of them. So one is introverts' preference for long-term memory. So basically, the brain has two mechanisms for storing information. One could be long-term memory, and one could be short-term memory. Now, in short-term memory, the information gets stored for a very brief period of time, but it's very easy to access. Whereas in long-term memory, it stays there for an indefinite period of time, but it is not very easy to access. You need some triggers to get there. But what it translates to in a practical world is basically whenever someone throws a question at me, something as basic as, what did you have for breakfast, or do you want coffee? My brain starts processing, or, starts looking for those triggers to reach that information in my brain, and to the other person, meanwhile, I'm just standing there staring blankly, and they think that I've zoned out. So yeah, but I'm actually sort of thinking about it and processing my answer before actually speaking it out. And the second one is introverts and extroverts respond. So whenever there's an expectation of a reward, and reward could be anything like money, status, social status, power, food, sex. So these things, for an extrovert, they sort of create a lot of excitement and energy, whereas for introverts, they need lower level of dopamine to make their to feel happy basically in these situations. So they might not look very excited or energized about these things, whereas an extrovert would be looking very enthusiastic and jumpy about these things. And I have sort of faced because of this thing, I have personally faced a lot of biases. So, for example, when I joined Teach for India, in the initial first few weeks, we had this training in Pune, and there were a lot of these over enthusiastic fellows, who had a lot of ideas about how they were going to bring about a change in their classrooms and community. And I sort of started doubting my own commitment and passion for the cause, because I thought, oh my god, like I don't have this kind of energy. And when I was actually placed in the school, the principal, in the very first week, the principal came up to me and said, oh my god, how are you going to handle this classroom? You look so lazy, is the word that she used. 1 month into the fellowship, when the real challenges of the fellowship started facing us, half of these seemingly enthusiastic people quit. And so yeah, basically what I'm trying to say is there is absolutely no correlation between display of emotion for a particular task and the actual commitment or performance at it, but it is perceived that way.
And how can somebody, identify, let's say, he's an introvert or an extrovert, so that I can communicate with him in a better way?
Well, there are a lot of signs. So one would be introverts prefer like smaller groups. They prefer written communication over verbal.
Okay.
So yeah, even I prefer like texting or messaging on Hangouts rather than calling up people. Then they they're comfortable being alone. Yeah, these are the and of course they feel tired after a longer amount of socializing basically.
Then how should, let's say, I have a friend who's an introvert, or I have a family member who's an introvert. How should one communicate with an introverted personality so that they can open up?
One would be so the generic hey, what's up, what did you do on the weekend kind of questions don't work for us at all, because again I would go into a loop and start thinking what I actually did on the weekend. We prefer longer, deeper conversations when we have some time. Basically, we love building stronger relationships with people and not just this superficial hi hello sort of thing. So yeah, like I would need that confidence that that person, if they're investing their time into it, I would want to add some value to that conversation, and similarly even I would want to seek some value in that conversation. So yeah.
Right, many people also mistake introverts for having a lot of attitude or ego. For people who don't know, yeah, for people who don't know that you are an introvert, and then when you go and approach them, they tend to not respond to you the way you expect them to, right? And we assume that that particular person has a lot of attitude or ego, right? So how do you overcome that? How do you clear that confusion?
Yeah, so this has happened to me so many times, when I've been tagged as a snob because of not interacting with people the way they want me to. And yeah, in fact, some of my relatives, they've said that, because she has her fancy education and all, she doesn't want to talk to us. But like, I would like to draw an analogy here. So, like, as a kid, I used to be very scared of lizards, and my mother would always tell me, if only you knew how much that lizard is scared of you, you wouldn't be as scared. So yeah, when people come and tell me that I'm very unapproachable or intimidating. So yeah, that's what I want to tell them. If only knew like
Correct. What is happening
yeah
inside your brain? Who are some of the most famous introverted personalities? Because I personally have heard a lot of names, very famous personalities who are introverts, but they have achieved quite success in their lives. So, do you know a few people? Would you like to name some?
one would be Gandhi, of course. He was introverted, and so the thing about introverted leaders is that they don't really enjoy being in the spotlight or directing people. It's their passion for the cause that they are working for. I mean, whatever they are planning. I mean, whatever they are aiming to achieve. It is that thing that drives them to be there, which actually sort of makes them better leaders. Then some other names that I can quote are Darwin, Einstein, Newton, J.K. Rowling, Steve Wozniak. There are just too many of them.
And what are some of the most common misconceptions about introverts that you personally heard of?
Yeah, so the first one is that people think that introversion needs to be fixed, or I hear a lot of people come and tell me that they used to be extroverts, some really sad event happened in their life and then they became an introvert, or they used to be introverts, then they worked on it and then they became extroverted. It does not work that way. Introversion is not some disease or disorder that needs to be fixed. It is the identity of 30 to 50% population of the world. And secondly, introversion is in your temperament. Basically, it is the way you were born. Sure, you can work on your social skills and get better at them, or you can work on your anxiety, but the need to recharge after having a social interaction, or the that wanting to have some lone time, that does not go away with time. In fact, like, I was born in one of the loudest cities in India, and then the career path that I've chosen also needs me to be out there. If introversion could be fixed, I would have been fixed by now, but lucky for me, my DNA is still intact.
So, is it possible for an introverted person to become an extrovert? Does that happen, or is it just a misconception?
It is a misconception. So that's what I said. That you can get better at your social skills, but introversion is more about where you're deriving your energy from. That does not change. Also, another misconception about introverts is that they are antisocial, or that they do not have friends, which again is not true. Introverts are selectively social, which means they might not come across as very friendly, they might not be good at networking, but they do have friends, and in fact, they spend a lot of time in building the foundation of these friendships or relationships, which is why they're able to retain these friendships for a very long period of time. So
yeah, if you see extroverts, right, they have a lot of actually friends, but when it comes to introverts, they may have a small pack, but more deeper connection. Makes sense. What message do you have for the world in general?
I think we are very quick to judge people who don't behave in the way that we expect them to. So next time you see that timid kid who fumbles when he speaks, you should probably know that maybe he's writing some poetry that is going to inspire generations to come. Or when you see that lonely, aloof boy from college, who does not attend class parties, maybe he's working on the next Apple computer. Or when you see that snobbish girl from work who always keeps to herself, please know that maybe, she's struggling to even maintain eye contact with you. So, yeah.
And what message would you like to, give the introverts? Because most people may not even know they're introverts. What can they do now? What message do you have for them?
So the key to, sort of dealing with these problems is self-awareness. The more self-aware you become, the less you care about what people think of you. And once you know what are your strengths, what things work for you, what things do not work for you, then you stop, analyzing or becoming sad about you. Oh, why am I not this way? You know that this is not going to work for you. You just move past that, and then you focus on the things that do work for you, and then put in all your energy and efforts in that direction. And also, it is very important to communicate at least to the people who matter to you in your personal and professional relationships, especially your friends, family, your team members. You need to tell them who you are and how you work, so that it would become easier for you once they are aware. They would be more accommodating, because it might not be their fault. They just don't know why you are behaving in a certain way, and once they do know, I'm sure they would be much more accommodating.
You said self-awareness is the key, right? So how do people become more self-aware? Any special things that they could do, books they could read, activities that they could do? How can they?
So yeah, I have read a lot of research about introversion that explained to me a lot of my own behavior, which I used to think that there's something wrong with me, or I was not sure why I was behaving in a particular way. But when there was science to explain all of these behaviors, it sort of helped. So, like I mentioned, the book by Susan Cain, it's called Quiet. That was one book that helped me a lot, and that lady has also given a TED talk on the same topic, so one can go and listen to that as well. The idea here is not to get tangled in the labels, and it's just about knowing who you are, knowing what are your strengths, because you would be able to draw patterns. If you introspect enough, you would be able to draw patterns from your life and understand your behaviors, and then extrapolate it and sort of use it in the next phase of your life.
And what books would you recommend for introverts to read so that they could understand more about this? And one book, let's say, for extroverts so that they could also understand more. What are the books that you would suggest people to read?
So like I mentioned, one book is Quiet. There's another book called An Introvert's Advantage. I don't remember the name of the author. And there are a lot of websites, I would say, where a lot of these research articles are published. One such website is called introvertdear.com. So I follow that, and I read a lot of research from that website.
Okay. And this is a question that I ask almost every single guest on my podcast. Let's assume, 50, 60 years old, you have kids, and, your time, you all have to, one day, say goodbye to this world, dear world. So what advice would you give your parents? If you could just give them, let's say, two advice. What two advice would you give your kids to spend their life?
One would be to expand your, basically be more aware of the different, kinds of people. So interact with people who are different than you. That expands your own world. You understand a lot about other people, how they function. You become more empathetic, and that actually improves your own. That improves yourself as well, because once you have this, I mean, once you know about other people, you get a lot. I mean, you understand yourself also better. And what else?
See, the reason I ask you this question is because, as you said, right, once some question comes to you
Yeah,
for which you're not prepared,
yeah, this happens. Yeah,
Yeah,
thank
so
you.
that's
Proves my point.
yeah. So I just wanted to ask you that question, where you just are actually things that people can understand and how.
Yeah, this is how I fumble.
Alright, no issues. So I just wanted to make sure that people who are listening to it can actually understand this is a true case where this is what happens when you throw them a random question. So nonetheless, Timsi, it was a pleasure having you on the podcast, and I'm sure that you coming out as an introvert and talking about this obviously has a lot of impact. It takes a lot of courage to even come out like this and tell about your own personal life and what are the challenges that you faced. I'm also sure that this message, people who are listening to it, they may be an ambivert, extrovert, or introvert, will add a lot of sense into their life so that they could understand at least a little bit more about maybe their friends that they did not know was an introvert, and so that they could communicate with them better, have more better relationships. So thank you so much for joining me on the podcast.
Thank you for inviting me.